Hey everybody, and welcome. This is going to be my very first book review. For you today, I have book one of the First Law trilogy, The Blade Itself by Joe Abercrombie. I'm not exactly sure how long this video is going to be, seeing that it's my very first one. I may need to split it up into two videos. I'd like to just go over what The Blade Itself is about, some of the major characters and plot lines, and then let you know what I thought about it, if you should read it, if you should pick it up. And I'd like to give it an overall rating as well. So the story starts with Logan, and he is just been separated from his clan. He is a barbarian from the north. That's what we know about him so far. And he's being chased through the forest by something. And we come to learn that that something are creatures that are human-like but seem to be subhuman called Shanka. Eventually one of these creatures does catch up to him, bites him on the leg, and Logan manages to scramble away, fall off of a cliff into a river. And at that point, he has escaped the Shanka for the time being. So while Logan is recovering from his wounds, he is encountered by three spirits, I think he calls them, and they tell him to go south, that somebody is calling for him. Not entirely certain who it is at this point. Sometime later, Logan encounters a sorcerer's apprentice. His name is Malachus Kwai. That's how you say it. Malachus Kwai lets Logan know that he's the one that Logan has been looking for. Kwai's been looking for him, and it's his job to take Logan south to meet this wizard or sorcerer that is looking for Logan. So they start making that trip down south. On the way to meet this master sorcerer, the trip takes a little turn for the worst, and Logan and Malachus have some hardship, and they start running out of food, and Malachus actually gets very, very sick. And this is kind of where we start to see the type of character that Logan is. Eventually, it comes down to him choosing between carrying some supplies that has helped him survive to this point, like his cooking pot and so on and so forth, or he can carry Kwai the rest of the way. And at that point, Kwai tells him, you have about 40 miles to go. So Logan needs to make a choice here. Do I carry my survival gear, or do I carry this person who I might not even be able to carry the rest of the way? Then I don't have my survival gear. That puts me at risk. Logan does make the decision to leave some of his supplies behind so that he's able to carry the apprentice Kwai the rest of the way. So we kind of see that Logan, he has compassion, and he's willing to put himself at risk for someone he really doesn't even know to save their life. And we get a little inner monologue with him where he lets us know in the past he's let a lot of people die. He's left a lot of people behind to save his own skin, and he kind of wants to make amends, or at least change. So he chooses to risk himself to save Kwai here. So we see here with Logan with his decision to put himself at risk to save Kwai, or at least try to, because there's no guarantee that he's going to be able to. We see that he's a person with a brutal past, or he's made decisions in the past that he wasn't proud of, and he wants to be a better person, and he wants to make better decisions in the future. So those are good qualities. And what ends up happening is Logan does make it to the village that they're headed to with Kwai. Kwai is hanging on by a thread. He looks like he's going to die very soon. But they get to the village, and Kwai gets medical attention, and Logan does meet up with this wizard. This ends up being Bayaz, think that's how you say his name. And he is the first Magi, whatever that means. Qui gets the medical attention, and Logan does encounter Bayaz, who is the first Magi and the wizard or sorcerer that he has been looking for, and Bayaz also has been looking for him. Logan gets some sleep, gets some food, and Qui doesn't end up surviving, so he pulled through. Logan saved his life, and that's where I would like to transition to another character. So Glokta is an Inquisitor, and he works for an organization in the Union, and the Union is just the overseeing government for the entire nation that the story takes place. And the Inquisition is the investigative branch of the Union, kind of like the FBI. And we follow Glokta here. And our first encounter with him is when he is interrogating a merchant by the name of Salem Ruse. So Salem and Glokta actually have a history. They knew each other and considered themselves to be friends. But now Glokta, he works for the Inquisition, and Salem Ruse is a merchant. And the merchants in this world have an overseeing or governing body that it's comprised of merchants, and they work together for their own political purposes and self-interest. And Salem is a part of this organization. Glokta wants to question him at the behest of his superior to get information about a possible coup or a plot against the king, who is the leader of the Union. So Glokta and the Inquisition's interrogating tactics relies solely upon torture, it would seem. They ask questions, and if the person being interrogated isn't forthcoming or what have you, they immediately go to torture. And we don't actually see a lot of the torture happening. The author will suggest that it's about to happen, and then we will change scenes. And then when we come back to the person, torture's occurred, and Glokta or whoever is interrogating has received the information that they want. I like the author's use of torture in this book, not because I enjoy reading about torture, but because it really is an indictment against torture. The information that the Inquisition typically gets out of these tactics is a forced confession. The person that is being tortured is going to say and do anything to have the pain, to get the pain to stop, to get the Inquisition to stop torturing them. You want me to confess that I'm a traitor? Sure, just stop torturing me. So these confessions that they're receiving are forced, and they typically do not seem to be true in any sense of the word. It seems that the Inquisition has a narrative pre-planned before they go into the interrogation, and they use torture on their victim to get them to tell them what they want to hear, sign confessions to fit the narrative that they want. And I really like this component of the book because it asks some very difficult questions regarding the lack of morality surrounding torture. Does torture get you answers? Possibly. Does it get you the truth? That's a question. Do you get the truth with torture, or is someone just telling you what they want to hear to get the pain to stop? And if it's the latter, which I suspect that it is there a gray area with torture? Are there scenarios where it is or would be justified to use it? If so, what situations would those be? Let me know what you think in the comments. Moving on. So Glokta obtains a confession out of Salem, and in addition to this confession, on top of being a traitor to the king, he names several people, I think it's 6 or 7, something like that, within the merchant guild who are his co-conspirators who assisted him with this plot against the king. So Glokta takes this list to his superiors, and they want Glokta to go and arrest these people. Glokta and his henchmen go to arrest and presumably to interrogate the first person on the list that they obtained from Salem, only to find that this person is dead and appears to have been murdered. They go to the next person on the list, and that person's also been murdered. And they go down and they track down all the people on the list, only to find that they've all been murdered. Glokta goes back to his superior at the Inquisition, lets them know what happened, and they come to the conclusion that there must be a mole who obtained the list of names and had those people in the Merchants Guild killed before Glokta could get to them and interrogate them. Glokta now needs to find the mole in the organization, and he thinks the best way to do this is to find and trap the assassin who has been killing the people that they have been looking for. I forget exactly how they do this, but they do end up successfully trapping one of the assassins, and they interrogate him, torture him, and they get a confession out of him and additional names within the merchant organization who is part of this plot to betray. Glokta and his henchmen find the people that the assassin had identified within the merchant organization. They interrogate them, get confessions out of them, and then Glokta brings those people, the assassin and Salem Ruse, before the Chamberlain, who appears to be the number 2 after the king, or the king's right hand, to stand a trial of sorts. Now, I say this is a trial of sorts because it's not really a trial. This is just Glokta going over the confessions that he obtained through interrogating the assassin, Salem Ruse, and the additional members within the merchant organization. The king gets these confessions, and via the Chamberlain, they pass a sentence that the merchant organization is to be dissolved, and the responsibilities within the organization, within the merchant organization, are going to be absorbed by the Inquisition. After the sentence was passed, Glokta and a couple of the inquisitors from the Inquisition go down to the merchant stronghold, break the doors down, and attempt to arrest the leader of the merchant organization. Glokta discovers that the merchant leader has put a noose around his neck and is preparing to hang himself rather than being taken in by the Inquisition. But before hanging himself, he tells Glokta to investigate the banks that the merchants did business with and the Inquisition itself, suggesting that that this traitorous plot goes further than just a merchant organization. After all this, Glokta goes back to the Inquisition and reports to his superior, letting him know what's transpired, and that the merchant leader suggested to Glokta before hanging himself to investigate the banks that the merchants did business with. Glokta's superior instructs him to not investigate the banks, but he doesn't tell him why. We are only left to guess as to why. Glokta starts to become suspicious of his superior, that he's obviously hiding something, and it's something that he doesn't want Glokta to find out. For one reason or another, he doesn't know. So, switching gears here to our third main character, we have a young man by the name of Luther Jezal, and he's a highborn noble. He comes from a well-placed and wealthy family. And he kind of has his heads in the clouds right now. He's in the Union's army, and he has the rank of captain. And the author lets us know that Luther obtained this ranking within the army basically because his family was able to purchase it for him, and because of their position, he was afforded this ranking. So he didn't really deserve it, he was just given it. Giselle is handsome, but he's conceited, arrogant, and self-centered. He doesn't really want to work. He doesn't have any goals in particular other than to serve his family's interests. He is training to participate in a tournament, a dueling tournament, where if he wins, then he'll win a lot of honor for his family, I guess you could say. So his family is pressuring him to participate and to win this tournament that he doesn't really want to do. He doesn't really want to participate in himself. Giselle is being trained by his superior officer for this tournament, and his superior senses Giselle's laziness, inattentiveness, and he pushes him because of this. He starts giving him a harder training schedule, gets him up in the morning earlier. He keeps adding on additional training exercises in the hope that Giselle will begin to take the training seriously. He will begin to take training for the tournament more seriously. But really what it does is it just continues to frustrate Giselle. He's tired every day. He's just barely getting through the exercises. And his superior officer is only adding on more and more exercises. During the time that Giselle is training at night, he spends his time gambling and drinking. And one of his friends that he gambles and drinks with, his name is Colum West. Colum tells Giselle that his sister is coming into town, and he asks Giselle to spend some time with her, show her around, and entertain her. Giselle is initially reluctant to agree, but eventually he does. Colum's sister's name is Artie, and when Giselle first meets Artie, he is surprised by how good looking she is and finds himself to be at a loss for words in their initial meeting. And it's a little bit awkward between the two of them at first, but eventually he gets over his awkwardness and they really hit it off. After a couple of meetings with Artie, Giselle finds himself starting to develop feelings for her, but he's conflicted by, number one, this is his friend's sister, and he doesn't think that his friend would approve of him dating her. And number two, the West family, Artie and Colum, they don't come from means, they don't come from noble blood. Their family doesn't have a good position in the world other than Colum's position in the Union Army. So from Giselle's point of view, there doesn't really seem to be a future with Artie because of that. So he obviously likes her, but he doesn't feel that he can pursue her because of that. Artie doesn't have anything to offer Giselle in the way of nobility, status, or any way to further Giselle's family's position in the world. So Giselle initially decides that he will not be pursuing a romantic relationship with Artie.